My name is John Nguyen, and I am the founder of StreamlineED.com. And this is almost my 7th year of teaching, and in the process, I work with my wife, Amy, and Arthur, who are also science teacher at the high school level. And me, under my name, we put the money to support StreamlineED.com, and we use it in our class for the last 2 years, and we realize how it has completely changed the way we teach, and it has completely changed the way how we support our student, especially the targeted group of students. I mean, student with learning disabilities and student who struggle at home, the student without the support of their parents at home. And that's the reason why we continue to use our money and pay on a monthly basis in terms of keeping the website alive. And recently, and starting since last year, we have a few teachers who would like to try StreamlineED.com, and through the process, it get to this point, because it's amazing to see how much they praise StreamlineED.com and how the website has completely transformed how they teach the class. Now, of course, there's nothing special about the website. It is the support and the personal experience that we implement in our class and they implement in our class, and we collaborate together to this particular moment where we now have the courage, where they over there, one is recording and the other one is holding the script, to make this tutorial video possible today. So thanks to them for giving us the courage to actually sit down and make tutorial that it would be possible for any teachers, veteran teacher or new teachers, to sit down, watch a very short video tutorial and able to use StreamlineED.com in their class. Of course, our focus is not to explain the philosophy of what is teaching. We just go straight to how we use it in our class, how other teachers use it in our class, and we put it in a way that what is the best possible implementation of StreamlineED.com in your class. Okay, so this first video is probably the most important one, because we focus on the organization of the whole entire class, not just the class online itself, but also how the student organize the content in your class. Before we're looking at adding any content on StreamlineED.com for your course, probably the most important aspect is organizing your work. By having a good organization, it will help you in the long term of using the same course over again for next year, as well as adding new content to your course. The organization of your course is based on 3 components on StreamlineED. First of all, the front end, this is what your student is going to see when they log on to StreamlineED, okay? And on the back end, this is your teacher back end, where you have your activity, which is your quizzes, your interactive question practices, is organized in terms of question category, just like a test bank. Each one of those is a folder of test bank, okay? And how we organize this based on the front end that your students see, okay? And then the last part of your organization is your gradebook, and how we organize so that in the end, all the activity that your student did for that particular unit, it is calculated and total into a single number that you can input onto your school gradebook, which make your life a lot easier. Now you don't have to grade those practices, but your student see the immediate feedback because they know when they get it wrong or right, okay? So that's a powerful aspect. Less work for you, but it has become more fun and more engaging for your students. And let's look at it, okay? Notice how I have unit. And just like before, you have chapter. If you have chapter, go with chapter. But I did it in a way that, if you notice, I have a number system. And look at this. A number system works like this. I have a number, and this number, this first number right here, is the number of the unit that you are working on. And followed by a hyphen is the page number. So if you are using StreamlineED.com, you can actually now using the ideas that we take this number system and make that the pages on your notebook. In my chemistry class and my honor chemistry class, we only need one composition notebook, and that is enough for us to keep all the content in there. Can you imagine having all the work throughout the whole entire year and the student organized in a way that they can now access this and when they review for the test? So this becomes the table of content for the whole entire year that is divided by unit. So followed by the hyphen is the page number. And if you notice, some of them does not have a page number, like for example, the quiz or the pre-assessment. That's because we don't write anything in the notebook when we take a quiz or test. But in terms of lecture and practice, right, especially lecture, they have their own specific page that is organized in the notebook. And even if I have practice that's supporting the lecture and it has very little work required to write, I just make them write on the same page. So that way we don't waste paper, and also the content is now cohesive in one place rather than just a bunch of paper that the student gonna look for it. Okay, so again, the organization on the front end is the table content for you and the student notebook that they will keep throughout the whole entire year. Now, if you notice, this is a check, right? And where I have the globes and the little piece of paper, those are like linked to your worksheet. That if you have students who are absent, now you can actually scan it and put it on StreamlineED, so it linked back to your Google Drive, so a student can download and print it. And instead of waiting, hey, Mr. Nguyen, what did I miss? Well, did you check on StreamlineED.com and download the worksheet and print them at the library and do it at home? So students who are in sport, or the student who absence a lot, now they have no excuse to why they don't have the work. Okay, especially when it comes to communicating with the parents and administrator, how we support our student. And then we have this little check right here, right? These are practices. Think of them like tests and quizzes, which what make this special is that if I go over here, I click on it, right? What you can do is that I haven't added a question to it, but if one of them has a question, let me show you what it look like if they have a question. Probably my pre-assessment have a question. And if I click on it, I put a password in it so student cannot access it at all until you give them the permission. And I will show you how to do that later. And let's do an example question, see how this is work on your student end, okay? So think of this like a worksheet, but what makes this powerful is that when the student answer it, they know if they get it wrong or right. So we have that immediate feedback right away. So let's answer this wrong. The elements on the periodic table are arranged by their increasing number of, let's put charges, okay? Which is doesn't show on the periodic table at all. And we click check, and it's wrong. And of course, guess what the student gonna do? Now, if they know they get it wrong, they're not gonna leave this blank when it's multiple choice. Of course, they're gonna choose a different choice. And we know the answer is proton, which is equal to the atomic number as well, and they get checked and they get partial credit. And all of this is recorded in the system so that you don't have to worry about the grading. But most important, now we put the learning in the responsibility of learning the content onto the student. In the meantime, now you have the time to support the student who really struggle the most, especially the target group student in your school who are underperforming in your class, okay? So that's one aspect of it, and that's the difference between the practice versus the worksheet you have in class. And of course, we're not saying that you should do this for every activity in your class, but do as many as possible because it takes a lot of time. And that's why we create StreamlineED so that it is under one server, so that you can now work with another teacher in your school and work with a group of teachers in your school. You can create a bunch of practice that you guys can share and that you have less work to do. But the benefit is so much for your student. It's make learning a lot more fun. But in the same time, you have truly become the facilitator of learning and the student are actually doing the learning. And that is the front end that the student will see and how they organize the work throughout the whole entire year. Now let's look at the categories, okay? Notice how I have 1-0 for Unit 1. and I label that measurement. Why am I doing 1-0? Because I know I want to create a title. That's more like title. That's why it doesn't have any question to it. But if we look at 1 and A of the pre-assessment right here, isn't it? Guess what happened? I also label 1 and A as well. So that way I know exactly, if I'm using the same course next year, I know exactly where to find the information, okay? Or if I'm sharing with another colleague, I know exactly what information I'm going to provide to them. And the same thing, I think I messed up with here where I labeled quiz 2 and quiz 3 is supposed to be quiz 1 and quiz 2. But you understand the concept behind it. The same thing for the lecture. I have 1-6, which right here I have 1-6 right here as well, DII. And I also have the practice as well, okay? So you understand the concept behind it. If you notice how I have this 1-4 worksheet and it doesn't have a check, and I don't have anything for 1-4, that is because those are tangible worksheets that you're gonna give to your student, and it has to be printed out and you have to make copies of those. That's why it's not a quiz. But in the end, if you click on here, it becomes a folder for you to organize all your content. So you don't have to worry about next year finding that worksheet somewhere in your cabinet somewhere, right? It is here on StreamlineED.com. So that's the back end in terms of you, the teacher, organize the quiz category folder, okay? Think of them like test bank folder, but just more organized. And notice how I have 2-0, that's the title for Unit 2, and I just label it. And if you notice how I skipped the first 2 pages, that's because at the end of every unit, you are going to print out a table of content for that particular unit, and it's gonna ask the student to total the grade earned for all those worksheets. So that way you only input 1 score on Infinite Campus for those activities, right? And I also skip page 2 because sometimes when we do bell work, the student needs to show work. They just have to write the work on page 6. They just have to write the work on that page instead of taking out an extra paper from somewhere and then throw it away. But now they do bell work on a notebook that they can look back again and see what they make mistakes in or what they understand in. So in the end, it's about organizing the content for the student so that they develop a growth in terms of their learning process. They can actually see it by looking at their notebook. And you, as a teacher, you can actually monitor the student by just looking at their notebook and their effort and their grade on Infinite Campus. Now, are you ready to go to the fun part? And that is the grading of all those practices. And notice how I have the unit, right? And each one of those practice over here, right, 1-6, 1-7, so on, is now organized in a unit 1. And at the end of the unit, it actually gives you the total score. And for every student, it has a particular score for it. And all you have to do is record this number into your school gradebook. Right now, probably many of you will think about this in terms of, wait, the school gradebook only have a few numbers based on the unit. Doesn't that confuse the student? Doesn't that send the wrong message that you don't do any work in that class? And that's where you have to explain to your student. And when you have a parent conference, StreamlineED is just there. It's not meant to be the one solution for everything, but it's to make your work more simplified. It's more streamlined so that you now have something into the gradebook so that the student know what grade they have in class. But also on StreamlineED.com, you have a more microscopic view analysis of what it is look like. Okay, so let me show you what it look like. Okay, so let's go to my honor chemistry gradebook and see how it look. Okay, for one particular unit. So I go to grades, of course, and this is all the class I teach, and I click on my honor chemistry. Where are you? Right there. And let's look at a particular student. Right now, you are being overwhelmed. I'll show you how to do this later, okay? Right here, just to show you how this can be using at a microscopic analysis of your student work. So, for example, this is Unit 1, right? At the end, I have a total number. What if I look at a particular student, okay? And I look at it, okay? And what did you notice if I click on one of the practices that they did? Look what you see. You can actually see all the student attempt, what they get wrong, how much time they spend on a particular question, and what they need to work on. You see that? This gives you a complete picture where the gradebook for your school is just to show what grade the student have. But this is where you show your student how much they have learned and how much they have progressed throughout the whole entire year. But in the end, you just have to put in one single number on your school gradebook. This and simplify and streamline the process of grading, but most important, it's not about reducing the work for students, but it has made learning more meaningful for students, especially the target groups of students who need this microscopic view so that we can communicate. Are you struggling because you being off task in class? Or are you struggling because you don't understand the content? And how can I help you? And that's extremely important in terms of helping our students today, in terms of getting ready for the competition out in the real world. And the same thing, we have organization for the bell work as well, and the assessment part. But you notice, this is where the most important part. Organize all the assignments so that at the end we just have a single number to input in your school gradebook. And of course, I expect that many of you are now being overwhelmed by the information provided. And that's the reason why I hinted at the beginning. This is probably the most difficult and the most challenging tutorial for you to watch because it is everything. Organization is not a simple skill that you can teach to somebody. You have to see it in action. And hopefully you have the courage to try it out and give yourself a chance to transform how you teach and how you can now provide the best education for your student, especially the target groups of students in your school and in your class. And also, thank you for your time. If you find this video is helpful, or if you have any question, feel free to put a comment below, and remember to click subscribe and like. Welcome to the family of StreamlineED.com, and we hope to empower you to become the greatest teacher possible.